We have breaking news in the NHL. After a decade behind the bench, Mike Sullivan is out in Pittsburgh. We'll discuss the move and where he could land next, coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have some pretty significant breaking news from the NHL. The Pittsburgh Penguins and longtime head coach Mike Sullivan have mutually agreed to part ways. Now, Sullivan was still under contract, so obviously they made it sound like this is a mutually agreed upon thing. So he's not fired per se, but at the end of the day, it kind of means the same thing in a sense that the Penguins are going to get a new head coach, and Mike Sullivan is free to go work elsewhere. So obviously Sullivan's going to go down as one of the all-time great coaches in Penguins history. He had a terrific run there. Of course, was elevated to the NHL job in 2015, taking over partway through the season, being elevated from their American Hockey League club, and has been there ever since. So just shy of a decade that Sullivan ended up being behind the bench there with Pittsburgh, having back-to-back Stanley Cups on his resume. Long-time great working relationship with Crosby, Malcolm Letang, and company there in Pittsburgh. It's been a team that's certainly taken a step back. They're now out of the playoffs for 3 consecutive years. Haven't really done anything in the playoffs since their last Stanley Cup. Obviously, after back-to-back cups, it's been pretty much, they've had a little bit of regular season success since then, but they really haven't had any kind of sustained prolonged success beyond, qualifying for the playoffs here and there. But the last 3 years, they've been out. I mean, he's got over 400 career wins on his resume now, 2 Stanley Cups. Obviously just coached Team USA at the Four Nation tournament, so certainly very much well-respected amongst his group of peers within the, USA hockey world as well. So certainly he won't be out of work long, and I would suspect, considering there is openings in a couple other key markets, that he's going to land in either Boston or New York. That's my opinion, to be completely honest. He's got connections to both franchises. We've already heard numerous reports from the New York Rangers after they let go of Peter Laviolette that Chris Drury, if he could have a wish list of coaches he'd like to hire, that Mike Sullivan would be right at the top from their connection to USA Hockey, that if he were available, he'd be his first choice. Now, of course, that doesn't for sure mean he's going to go there, but we know Drury is definitely going to be wanting to talk to Sullivan, and he'll likely be considered a front runner there should he be interested. And of course, the connection to the Boston Bruins, various reasons, including the fact that his son-in-law is Charlie McAvoy, connections to the area as well, of course, being from the area. So I've no doubt the Bruins, who now are conducting a coaching search. We know Joe Sacco is technically in the mix, but don't really believe has a strong chance of being the next full-time head coach. Of course, didn't really have a great success after they let go of Jim Montgomery, which, you could argue they had themselves a heck of a coach there. And that, to me, was a difference in philosophy. I don't think Montgomery really meshed well with Sweeney and Neely, and I think that's really what it boiled down to. They couldn't come to agreement on a new contract, and, I think they had difference of philosophies and parted ways. It's unfortunate for them, and it worked out great for the St. Louis Blues, but now here's an opportunity for Mike Sullivan. We often said, the Bruins coaching job, Sullivan would probably be right at the top of their list as well, should he be available. But he's been under a long-term lucrative contract that he signed when Fenway Sports first took over the Penguins after they purchased the team. He was signed because he's been there obviously such a long time, and the current contract came well before Kyle Dubas arrived, right? So Dubas has worked with Sullivan now for the past 2 years. And like I said, I think this is just out of respect and everything that they didn't want to let him go. They've discussed, changing things up there by mutually parting to part ways. And I think this is easier because there's a couple of prime opportunities that if he had to go, that would probably interest him. So I'd be shocked if Mike Sullivan is not the head coach of one of those 2 other teams within the next couple of weeks, if not sooner. Who knows? As far as what's next for the Pittsburgh Penguins, there's certainly a team that's trying to remain as competitive as possible, kind of trying to retool on the fly, remain competitive with some strong veterans while trying to get younger, faster, more skilled at the same time, trying to be, open up a last window here for Crosby, Malkin, and Letang. I don't know that it's possible. I think there's there's just too much work to do in Pittsburgh. I think it's going to take too long. I don't really see them getting back into contention. I mean, Crosby is playing at a high level. I mean, at this rate, it's hard to imagine when he's going to retire, or unless he retires playing at a really high rate. But as long as he's having fun and still producing, he could probably play well into his 40s. I mean, at this point, it's, Father Time has not caught up to him. He's still playing at an incredibly high rate into his late 30s. So, who's the next head coach in Pittsburgh? It's hard to say. I'm sure they'll probably want to have a chat with David Carl, University of Denver, one of the young up-and-coming coaches. I don't know that he's going to want to go there without a long-term commitment and lucrative offer. That's going to be challenging, but I'm sure they want to talk to him. But I can see it maybe being a younger, up-and-coming coach who they can kind of, maybe see working with this team as they go through, some rough patches, if you will, for the next few years, but hard to say. I'm sure there's going to be lots of interest when you have a chance to work with some of the veterans that are there, and the fact that they're trying to retool here. There'll be lots of interest, but it's not really clear yet who's going to be the next head coach of the Penguins. But let me know your thoughts on this news down in the comments. We'll discuss further. Of course, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.